Good evening, Bruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class was sponsored Lui Nishmat Daniel Ben Brucha. Tehei Nishmatot Tzura B'Tzor HaChaim Began Eden Ha'Elyon Im Kol HaTzadikim VaChasidim. Amen v'Amen. So we discussed last week the four exiles and the resemblance of them pertaining to the Jewish nation, and we left a lot of open corners. So we're going to try and close some of them now. One of the things that we left open last week, this was the most complicated part of what we left open last week, is we spoke about the Arba Galuyot, the Chazal, that talk about in different ways. And the last Galut is the Galut of Edom, which would be the European culture, the Western civilization. And we asked on that we see that there's a direct contradiction in places in Chazal that talk about Bnei Ishmael, the Muslim nations, having some sort of power at the end of days, as well as specifically Iran, and soon we'll prove where that comes from. Topping it with the fact that we seem to fear today the Muslim terrorist regimes a lot more than we fear anything that has to do with the European Union or the Americans and so on. If anything, we have a president right now in the US who the only reason why he's being impeached is because Chazal say, Hayut Tzareh Lerosh. Whoever causes the Jews problems has power. Whoever helps the Jews loses his power. And he was the most helpful president to Israel in the history. So obviously he's going to go on the impeachment things. He's paying a price. But he's a strong man. Today he continued with his agenda and made a mockery out of the Palestinians. And pretty much said he's coming up with a peace plan that says that Israel owns everything and they should have a good life, or a one-way trip, whichever way you want to put it. But at the end of the day, the world is most affected today by what we call the Muslim terrorist regime. And if that's the case, how does that work? Well, Chazal say clearly that the last galut, the last exile, is going to be the Malchut of Edom. This seems to be somewhat of a contradiction, for one, and number two, also factually, what is it? And if you want to say it's both, you would have to have a source. I'm not saying it's not, but you would have to have a source. You can't just randomly spew facts. You have to be able to back your case with something. So, talking about Muslim terror, one of the places that as Jews we feel it most is in Israel. And we've been feeling it from before the state of Israel. That historic misconception of after the Zionists made the state of Israel is when terrorism started is a lie. But it definitely got a lot stronger since the inception of the state of Israel, beginning with the war day one, and ever since that we never had a day of peace. Even when you don't hear in the media that there was issues, it's not because there weren't issues. My family on my father's side is a very large military family. I have uncles that served in the army for tens of years. I have one uncle who was a general in the Air Force for close to 40 years. I currently have many cousins that their moms don't sleep at night because they're all on active duty, and most of them in places that we don't even know. Not in the regular units, they're all in very elite units in the army. And one of my cousins who works for one of the security institutions in Israel vaguely said, based on what he was allowed to share with me one day when we were talking recently on the phone, that people think that there's no more, Israel didn't see terrorist attacks in the past few months. Thank God it's quiet. He said, number one, it's not true, because unless there's a severe injury or a death, it's not spoken about in the media. And there are tons of attacks that don't end up that way, thank God, miraculously. So you don't even hear how many attempts there are. He said, number two, on an average day, the IDF, the police, the Mossad, the Shabak, and other wings of the Israeli armed forces that don't have names that we know of, including the one he serves in, they prevent somewhere between 100 and 130 attacks on Israel. That's not a year, a day. Let's think about that for a second. Imagine in America, in New York City, they had to prevent 130 terrorist attacks a day. This country, they wouldn't go to war with Iraq or one, they'd go to war with the whole world. Vietnam would be a baby game. They'd nuke the whole world over such a thing. And Israel has to prevent 130 terrorist attacks a day at insane costs, and cost of life as well, unfortunately. And when we finally retaliate a little bit to shut the idiots up, so then CNN has a party. We're oppressing the Palestinians. I never knew you can oppress a terrorist. I don't know, that wasn't what I was taught. And definitely that wasn't the American culture in Guantanamo Bay. If Israel would have done 1 ounce of what they did there, I don't want to know what the world would have said. So this is the Edom part of the world that's fighting Israel. So it's kind of a virtual war. The Ishmael part, the Muslim part of the world that's fighting Israel, is not a virtual war, it's a physical war. So we see that both wars are happening simultaneously. This is a mind-boggling story. I can't promise you every detail. I'm going to say it's 100% precise. I'm giving this over from what I heard. There's an Israeli soccer player who became religious a bunch of years ago. Not that many, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And there's Neal Guinta. Today they call him a rabbi. He's actually very popular on YouTube. He has 90 to 100,000 views on every class that goes up, and he has a few a week that go up. He's a popular YouTube celeb. I have a lot of respect for the man, even though I don't know him, never met him, for 2 reasons. Number one, he's actually doing, not speaking. I love guys that do. He's out there every night, giving his heart out, and people are really changing. It's an amazing thing to watch. It's a phenomenon. So I don't watch his speeches, because he doesn't really have many chidushim for me in his speeches, but I fast forward to the last 5 or 6 minutes of each one of his videos. That's the coolest thing. He speaks like 45 minutes to an hour, and then he starts like he has a case in front of him of stuff, and he pulls out tzitziot. He says, who in the crowd is going to take upon himself 40 days to wear tzitzit? You know, he kidnaps a few boys that way. Then the next thing, Birkot HaShachar. Who's going to do Birkot HaShachar for, I don't know, 3 months or whatever it is? It's amazing how he just reels people in. Now, people look up to him because he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. There's a man who was one of the most promising images in the Israeli soccer world, and he gave it all up because they wanted him to play on Shabbat. And just to put things in perspective, since he was 14 years old, he didn't live at home, he was in a soccer dormitory for Maccabi Haifa. That means his whole life, his blood, everything he was born with and everything he had was only soccer. This is where his life started and ended. And in one day, he said, first he started with a little stunt. He used to still play soccer, and under his team's t-shirt, or jersey or whatever it's called, he would wear an undershirt, a white undershirt that had big black letters in Ktav HaShurit, like the letters that we use in the Sefer Torah, that said, Ein od milvado, there's nobody except for God. And every time he would get a goal, he would pick up his team's shirt and he would prance around, Ein od milvado. That annoyed the media in Israel a little bit, you can imagine. But afterwards, he had the Shabbat issue, and he stopped playing and sacrificed his life at the end of the day for the sake of Shabbat, all at the age of 24. That's a big sacrifice. He still has a bunch of years in his career ahead of him. And he's doing amazing things. And somebody sent me a clip of his. I get tons of clips every day. Most I don't open. I'm not inspired by most of the minute stuff. In a minute, you don't change. Even though the Chazal say, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achad, that's if you do it yourself, not if WhatsApp does it for you. But somebody sent me, a clip, 7 minutes, where he says a story. I had read this story prior, so if anybody remembers where it says it, please tell me the source, because I'd love to match the facts, but I'm going to give it over the way I heard it from him. He says there was a guy who was a soldier serving in Hebron. Not a fun place to serve, by the way. Next time you go to Israel and go to the Ma'arat HaNachpelah, which I'm sure you'll do, that's the first place you should go. I've said in the past, I'll repeat it again. I once myself, this is not third hand, went into Maran Harav Yashiv Zitzal Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, and asked him for a blessing. And he asked me, when did I get to Israel? It was about 7 p.m. or so when I went into him. And I told him I landed at 5:25. I'd gone straight from the airport in a taxi to his house. And he told me, when am I leaving? And I said, I have a flight out at 1 a.m. And Rabbi Yashiv was a very straight man. He wasn't a man of words. And he said, so what are you going to do in the few hours that you're here? So I said, I came to resolve one specific issue, that this is what I came to ask for a blessing for, which had to do with an orphan who was getting married, and we had to just make sure things were done right for her and she could be able to get married peacefully and happily. And that's it. And then I'll probably go to the Kotel and go back to the airport. That's what I told him. So he said, that's a common mistake. Those were his words. Ta'ut nefotza, common mistake. I didn't understand what he was talking about. What's the common mistake over here? I thought I came to do a good deed and I want to go pray Abit Barakota and go home. What am I doing wrong? So he said people think that if they're in Israel and they only have a little bit of time, they should go to the Kotel. So the Kotel is very holy, of course, and very important. But the holiest place to pray in the world is Marat HaMachpelah. So if you only have time to go to one place, you go to Marat HaMachpelah. So I told him, and this was surprising because Rabbi Yashiv normally didn't speak much to people, like definitely not about this type of stuff. So I told him, Rabbi, but Hebron is an hour from here. The Kotel is 5 minutes from here. So logistically, time-wise, so he told me, together with the bracha, you should be matzliach, and what you came for, I give you a bracha, you should be matzliach with the time also. That's what he told me. Meaning he was very determined that I should go to Marat HaMachpelah. Which is interesting, because Rabbi Yashiv himself, I don't know if he ever went in his life. Definitely not that is spoken about. But that's what he believed, at least idealistically. Could be him, he was learning, that was more important. So next time, hopefully you'll learn from this, and when you go to Israel, instead of looking for which restaurant you're going to go to Marat HaMachpelah. That should be your first stop. That's your most important stop too. And if you went to Israel only for that, it was worth it. And you're going to see a whole lot of soldiers there, because unfortunately, it's not the safest place. Our wonderful cousins, the Bnei Ishmael, they like killing people there. They have a certain pleasure over it. And there's tons of soldiers to protect the place, whether it's Mishmar HaGvul and Tzal and others. Instead of just ignoring them or walking by them, maybe be a decent human being and realize that the way you can come pray here is because these kids, who are 17, 18, 19 years old, are risking their lives on 12-hour shifts every day, so this should be a place that you can attend. And take a moment and stop and say thank you to them. And say thank you to them not only in your name, in the name of the entire American Jewry. Because we all owe them a thank you. It's a makom tefillah that protects us, so all of these kids are protecting. And if you really want to do the right thing, maybe go to the kosher store that's next door and buy them some ice cream or Coke or something like that and bring it to them too, so it's not just lip service. That wouldn't be a bad idea. I do that every single trip. A lot more than just that. But yeah, it's very simple. It's ABC. So one of these soldiers, we lost many soldiers in Hebron over the years, tragic amounts. I don't know the exact numbers, I don't like quoting numbers in the air, but tragic. Even if it was one, it would be a terrible tragedy. But we lost crazy numbers of soldiers in the area of Hebron. There was a while, up until about 9 months ago, that every day there was an attack there. One day, one of the soldiers is on his shift, it's 5 a.m., and he hears screaming from far. Now, they're trained really not to get involved in things they don't have to, because exposure is dangerous. So the less exposure, the better. For some reason, the guy later on said he felt the need that he doesn't know how to explain, to go run and see what happened. He goes to follow the voice of where he hears the screaming coming from, and he sees another soldier who's somebody who obviously serves in Hebron, but oddly enough, he didn't even know who he was. Must have been new. And who's laying on the floor, was shot, bleeding to death. It seems like that soldier was walking to or from somewhere on a patrol, and he got shot by a sniper, so it was relatively a quiet shooting that nobody paid attention to. And now he's injured on the floor, and he was injured so badly that he couldn't even get on his radio to ask for help. And he was alone. That's a way that they call in the military term bleeding out. God forbid, we lose a lot of lives that way in all militaries. He gets there, he's trained for this right away, he stops, stop completely, but whatever he can to slow the bleeding down, calls for help, an ambulance comes, and the ambulance driver asked who's with him. Because the way it works in the Israeli IDF is they don't leave soldiers alone. So when a soldier goes, God forbid is wounded, there's a crew that goes normally with them. Now being that this was Hebron, and Hebron is a private ambulance company that services the military, so they asked, who's in his unit that's going with him? He said, me, which is crazy because he was on a post somewhere else and he can get into serious trouble for this, even though it sounds like a good deed. The military, you have to stick to rules because the day you break rules is the day trouble starts. And he went. He went to the hospital, he was rushed to the closest hospital to the sea, and the doctors, after a little bit of a fight, succeeded to stabilize his life. Otherwise known as this young kid, by his instinct to go chase a voice that he heard, saved one of his own friends to battle his life. Amazing. In the interim, they identify the soldiers. They all wear this tag. It's very easy to identify them, unfortunately. They call the parents come down to the hospital, and this soldier, when he was there by the hospital and he saw the parents coming, he felt embarrassed. I don't know why, but he did. And he decided he's leaving, and he just left the hospital and took a cab to go back to Hebron to go back to his duties. When the parents meet the doctors, and the doctors explain to the parents what happened and what his medical situation is and how they succeeded to stabilize him, but he's still in a dangerous condition, and it's going to take time. So the doctors mention to the parents, you should know that if not for his friend that stopped his bleeding and bandaged it and so on, he would have been dead. So he had a young friend that saved his life. So they said, who? So the doctor said, the soldier that's sitting right outside. So they said, what soldier? We didn't see anybody. He said, I'm telling you, I spoke to him before. I had to ask him what happened, and because it was applicable for the medical procedures. So they thought maybe they missed him. So they went back out from the doctor's room, and they're going around the hallways looking for anybody wearing a military uniform, hoping that that's the guy. After a few minutes, they realized the guy disappeared. It is what it is. Now they have a burning desire to thank him, but they have nobody to thank. They went to the media a few weeks later, when their son was already released and on his road to recovery. He made a full recovery, by the way. And they openly pleaded that whoever it was that saved, this soldier's name was Hananel, whoever it was that saved Hananel's life, should please make contact with us. We live in Kiryat Malachi, whatever they said it all, whatever they were allowed to say, according to the Israeli censorship. And they got no response. They ended up deciding to do an interesting thing. And I have a friend who lives in Kiryat Malachi. I actually contacted him today, and he told me it exists until today. Just in a different text, and you'll understand why in a minute. They took a large plaque, and they wrote the story of what happened to their son, and the miracle he had, and that a young soldier saved him, and that they don't know who he is, and they'd love to know who he is to be able to thank him properly. And if anybody knows who he is, or happened to have been that soldier, please identify themselves. And they hung it up on the front door of a store that they have, which is on one of the main streets that cuts through the city of Kiryat Malachi, and many people stop by. It's like a convenience type store. So they figure there's tons of traffic, so Israel's a small country, there's a good odds that somebody will know somebody, something. A year and a half goes by, nothing doing. Every guy walks into the store, stops, takes pictures with the plaque. It's like a phenomenon in Israel, this thing. Parents desperately looking for who saved their son's life. Which, by the way, I think has a beautiful element on its own, that they felt such a burning need and desire to repay a favor, meaning hakarat hatov, to show gratitude. That alone is an amazing thing. They, about a year and a half later, one day, a couple that lives somewhere else completely is driving through Kiryat Malachi, coincidentally, and the woman tells her husband that there's a kiosk, it's called in Hebrew, a rest area, whatever. I'm thirsty, can we stop? I want to buy something to drink. I'm thirsty too, by the way. That's the placebo effect. But anyway, so her husband pulls up to this place, and she's about to walk in, and she sees this big plaque. She starts looking and reading, and she reads the whole thing. She runs into the store. She goes, and as she's going into the store, she's crying bitterly. Woman behind the counter sees a lady coming into the store crying. So when you see a Jewish woman crying, that's a bad sign normally. So you help, right? People don't stay idle there to somebody else's pain. And the woman right away goes to her and says, what happened? Do you need anything? Were you hurt? And she can't get words out of her mouth. Finally, after calming her down, the woman tells her, I'm crying because of the plaque outside. So what about the plaque outside? That's a happy thing, our son was saved. So she said, yeah, I have a son who came home one weekend and randomly shared with us a story. He was in Hebron on the post and this, and the details matched perfectly. And he went to the hospital, and then when he saw the parents coming, he was embarrassed, so he ran away and he went back to his post, whatever. And so my son saved your son's life. The mother hears this, and this is her dream come true. Now she starts crying. This is the mother, the person said. So she asked him if she could call her son. She wants to speak to the son. They call the boy. The boy had still been in active duty. They asked him if there's any way he can come to Kiryat Malachi. They'll pay for his taxi, whatever, anything just to come. They want to see him. So he said he has to ask permission from his superiors. He goes to his superiors, he tells them the story. They obviously are sensitive to such a story, and they give him permission. They tell him he has the day off. It's called a gimel. He gets a gimel, he can leave. Normally that's if you don't feel well, but in that case, there's another reason. He leaves, and he takes a cab down to Kiryat Malachi. He gets to Kiryat Malachi. By now, a long time went by, between getting permission and the driving time and everything. And the father and mother of Hananel are sitting together with the father and mother of this soldier who now attends. He comes, hugs, kisses, the whole thing all over again. You're the hero who saved my son's life. They make like a little celebration together, if we'll call it that. And they make a vow between the two families that they're going to stay in touch and in contact and connected. He said it only makes sense. Exchange phone numbers and everything. Right before the woman's about to leave, she turns to Hananel's mother and she says, "Could I take you to the side? I want to talk to you privately." And she says, "Sure." And she takes her outside to the back porch of this kiosk and she tells her, "I want to tell you why I was crying. It wasn't my son saved your son. That's a heroic act. That makes me smile. I'm so happy that I have a son like this. I'm blessed to have a son like this. I just want to remind you of a story that happened many years ago. So 21 years ago, I got pregnant. And I wasn't married, and I was very poor. And I had concluded in my mind that I'm going to have an abortion, God forbid, otherwise known as murder. And I lived in Kiryat Malachi at the time. And I was on the way to go to the clinic. And I had stopped in your store to get water to drink because I was stressing out because I wasn't 100% whole with what I was about to do, to get water. And you asked me, why don't I look good and if I need help? And for some reason I decided to spill my guts out and I said I'm on my way to do an abortion because I'm poor and I don't have money and I can't afford the child and I'm young and all the crazy insanity liberal reasons of murdering. And you spent your whole afternoon to convince me not to abort. Not only that, for the first year after I had the baby, you used to send me money and food to my little apartment that I shared with friends every single weekend to make sure that I have what I need, because you felt that being that you convinced me not to have an abortion, and the boy who you saved his life is the soldier that saved Hananel. Zorei tzedakot. Hashem says, plant a good deed, matzmiach yeshuot. Years later, I'll make that good deed come back to save you. An amazing thing. So because we're on the topic of terrorism and Bnei Ishmael and whatever, so this is just a small example of the great miracles that God does in the world to save us from this terrible thing. But now, let's go back to the historic facts of the Psukim. Listen to what goes on in the Torah. Esav married the daughters of Canaan, right? That's what Torah teaches us. Esav is the grandfather of Edom/Amalek, Hitler, as we know it today. At one point in his life, after not getting blessings that he wanted from his father and being upset and vowing to kill his brother and whatever else went on there, the Torah says, Vayar Esav ki ra'ot benot Canaan b'nei Yitzchak aviv. Esav saw that Yitzchak, his father, doesn't like that he took wives that were the daughters of Canaan. So he went and added another one. He didn't get rid of what he had. He took another wife. In case he didn't have enough, he took more. Vayelech el Yishmael. He went to Yishmael. Vayikach et machlat bat Yishmael al nashav lo leisha. He took machlat bat Yishmael on top, meaning in addition to his wives that he already had, as another wife. Now what's the rationale in this? If he cared about what his father thought, then he should have got rid of his other wives. He should get divorced from them and then take machlat bat Yishmael. Doesn't say that. The Torah clearly stresses, don't think he got rid of his other wives. No, he kept the Bnot Canaan. But he also added into his family another genetic family. Machlat bat Ishmael. This is a story in the Torah. We see that the Torah really goes in an order that we've seen different anti-Semitic acts play out in Jewish history. For example, the anti-Semitic movement in Nazi Germany prior to World War II, well, prior to World War I technically, in part, in a great part, was a direct result of the Zionistic movement that was building up with this dream of building a Jewish state. And this verse that, it's always like that. The Biskarov used to say, on Shabbat, we have two things that we do the same motion, but two different results. We take a cup of wine, and on Friday night we hold it, and we do something called Kiddush. And on Saturday night we take the same cup of wine, and we hold it, and we do something called Havdalah. Kiddush means to make holy. Havdalah means to separate, right? On Tzei Shabbat we do Havdalah to separate between Shabbat and weekday. The Biskarov used to say that God teaches the Jewish nation you have one of two choices. Either to do Kiddush, to keep yourselves holy, to disassociate yourselves from your surroundings, or Hashem says, you didn't do your Kiddush, I'll do Havdalah already. I'll make sure to separate you. And if you look throughout Jewish history, every time the Jews assimilated beyond a certain point, a terrible tragedy happened. And I don't say that as a scary thing or as a punishment or as a threat. I actually say that as good news. Because if not, there wouldn't be a Jewish nation. That's exactly what keeps us a nation. Without that, there'd be nothing left. From World War II to now, we lost many more Jews in assimilation than we lost during World War II. It's a frightening thought. So Yaakov, Esav is upset that Yaakov stole his blessings from Yitzchak. Esav says, Yikrevu yimei evel avi ve'arga et Yaakov achi. It's going to come the days that my father's going to die, whatever, and I'll be able to do what I want, and I'm going to kill my brother Yaakov. This was the second part of the anti-Semitic movement to the world. The first was Ishmael causing trouble with Yitzchak, but after that, this was number two. Meaning history repeats itself. What happened afterwards? Yaakov Avinu has to run away. Rivka tells him, get out of here, your brother wants to kill you. We've got to save your life. So he leaves to go to Haran to get a wife. He got more than he bargained for. He went to get one, he got four. Sometimes in life you get more than you bargained for. And what is Rivka's response to him leaving, running away, going to find the wife at the same time? Katzti bechayai mipnei benot chet. She tells Yaakov, she doesn't tell him, run away because your brother wants to kill you. She tells him, Katzti bechayai mipnei benot chet. I'm disgusted with these type of girls that are over here. I don't want you to marry a girl like that. So go somewhere else where over there you'll find a better wife for you. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was she was trying to protect his life. And she said it herself. The Pasuk says that she said, which later on turned out to be a prophecy, Lama eshkal shnechem b'yom echad? Why should I lose you both in one day? Which was a prophecy that the same day that Yaakov Avinu was going to die, Esav is going to die, which is exactly what happened in the story of Choshim ben Dan by the burial of Yaakov. Because Esav threatened to kill Yaakov, that's the way he found out that his parents aren't happy with his choice of wives. Because Rivka said, Katzti b'chayai mipnei benot chet. Till then, nobody told him anything. It's meaning, as a result of him vowing to kill the Jews, that's what caused him to get this piece of information that his parents don't like his wives that are for the children of Canaan. And therefore, as a result, he decided that he's going to move forward and get another wife, which was from the daughters of Yishmael. It's an amazing thing if you think about it. We quoted last week an article which matches this thing perfectly. At the moment that the Edomim in World War II decided that they're going to go after us, the Bnei Israel, and cost 6 million Jewish lives and many, many millions of other lives, began a process that later on created that today Europe is infiltrated with Muslims. There are parts of London that the police doesn't go into. That's not an exaggeration. They're literally scared. Who would think such a thing could happen? I don't know, this is very not politically correct, not that I care, but theoretically. I was once stuck in the United Kingdom in London, Heathrow, during one of these ash cloud situations that grounded planes for a while. And it was an interesting experience. So it took a while until we understood what's really going to happen, and you may as well just fly somewhere else, train somewhere else and then get out from there. But at the beginning, initially, they were still lying that in 2 hours we'll be able to fly, an hour they'll be able to fly. I don't know if they were lying, they didn't know, whatever it was. So I was sitting in a lounge, sitting in the Concorde Lounge of British Airways, and I wasn't prepared for this. I had nothing with me, like zero. The closest thing I had was my iPad. Thank God I have a few apps of Sfarim. I kept myself busy for a while that way. After a while, it started getting boring. So I decided, listen, there's so many people here. We're all in the same mess. Let's become friends, right? So I started poking fun with one random guy, and then another one, and another one, and it was entertainment. I was like entertaining the crowd. I was walking around from person to person and just messing around, just joking around with people and talking to them. And I actually have a few people that I'm in contact with till today that I met then. We have business contacts. It was a good opportunity. And there was one guy I didn't get to yet who was wearing the whole Palestinian costume, which, by the way, I know that all Palestinians are thieves, especially Yasser Arafat was a big thief, and not because I'm judgmental or I believe in generalizing, but I once looked at a close-up picture of Arafat's tablecloth on his head, and it said on it Hilton. So, yeah. You guys are slow tonight? What's going on? Anyway, so there was one guy like that dressed up in the costume. So I didn't get to him. He was on my list, don't worry, but I didn't get to him. I was still having some fun with some other guys. And over there in the United Kingdom, like most of the world except for us, they're into soccer, that's their big thing. And I don't know, they're all trying to talk to me about soccer. I don't even know what they're talking about. It was an interesting situation. They're talking about soccer and I'm talking about drinks and everybody with his thing. Then this guy turns around, this Arab guy, he looks at me, and I was wearing a kippah, I wear my kippah proud. And he tells me, what, because you're Jewish, you can't talk to me? I decided if I'm starting up with others in trouble, so he's going to stop. That's what he tells me. I wasn't going to let that mini terrorist get away with it. So I looked back at him, and I told you, I'll tell you the truth, you were the first guy I wanted to come talk to. But if you paid attention, I'm not really talking to people. I'm joking around, I'm teasing a little bit, I'm pushing my limits. And I got to board a plane soon, so with you, I'm not messing. And you could see a bunch of British guys with their serious faces like, you didn't just say that, did you? No way in the world. Yeah, that's what happens when you're bored in a lounge. Not a good idea. Find entertainment next time. Since then, I take stuff with me just in case, so I just stay out of trouble. But happens to be he took it well. But anyway, he wasn't one of these Palestinians. He was from Saudi Arabia. Those guys get along with Jews secretly very well because we have mutual wealthy interests. We all like making money. It's only those that blow up on buses that hate us. The normal ones that like money, they love us. They have no issues with us. And as Sephardic Jews, we know that historically. But anyway, we see that the pattern is literally the same. They decided, Hagat Yaakov Achi, we're going to kill the Jews. What did they get instead? They took a new wife. Machlat Bat Ishmael, they took the Ishmaelim, the Turks, the Syrians, the Iraqis, you name it, they took them all. Who predicted that thousands of years before? The Torah, exactly. That's what's going to happen. And that Torah goes detail after detail to tell you exactly the way it works and why. The way, big deal. See, predict the future, it is a big deal, but who cares? Like, what is it going to help you? But when you know why, that's an extremely important thing, because then maybe you can actually make a difference. And if you can make a difference, that's important to know. So to understand this, we have to understand what is this Malchut Yishmael, this kingdom of Yishmael, this exile that has to do with Yishmael, what's its purpose? So, this is not my question, and again I want to give the same disclaimer as I gave last week, that my sources are not because I have such vast knowledge on the subject. I don't. I say that clearly. It's because I merited to have a wonderful, wonderful friend named Mordechai Negershel, who is an expert in the field, and he feeds me all the sources I need on the subject. So I'm very grateful to him. And tomorrow, when he watches this, I think, so thank you, Rabbi. But anyway, so listen to the way it works. The Maharal asks, he doesn't understand something. He said, if Malchut Yishmael, the kingdom of Yishmael, is so big, and it plays such a big role in the Jewish exile, and it causes the Jews so many problems as we feel in our flesh and blood today, then why is it counted as one of the four exiles? Right? We had the Greeks, the Babylonians, Parasu Madai, the Persians, whatever that means, and Edom. There should be a fifth on the list, Ishmael. Why isn't that one counted? This is the Maharal's question. Then he says, and now that it's not counted, so what's its place? Is it an exile or not? Do the Jews have to deal with this or not? Today we see factually yes, but at the times of the Maharal that wasn't the case yet. And then the Maharal asks the biggest one of the questions. If, as we proved last week, Chazal teach us, the Malchut Edom is going to be the final exile until Mashiach comes, and at that point we're done, and we're done with exile, so what do we have to stick the Ishmaelim in for? Who needs them? Edom is bad enough. We went through enough with them. The amount of people that the Christians killed throughout the years in the name of blood libels and anti-Semitic acts and other hate acts and whatever else knows no boundaries. And part of that we proved last week. So why did these Ishmaelim come in suddenly? What do we need them for? We could do without that. We went through enough. We need another problem on top of it. In the medical field, a patient has a chronic disease, especially if it's a serious chronic disease, and on top of that catches even the tiniest other thing, a flu, so we go into panic mode. For a regular person, if he catches a flu, so in the best case, they give him Tamiflu and tell him go lay in bed like a baby, and a few days later get up, everything will be fine. What's the difference? One person has a normal immune system and can battle a virus, and the other one is already, his whole body's shot in all different ways, and has no ability to battle anything. And that's a fundamental, that's a serious difference. Same idea. If we have this big Malchut Edom for close to 2,000 years, that's giving us hell and high water, time after time again, lie after lie, story after story. So now we got to also stick in another illness? For what? We had enough. This is the Maharal's question. Then the Maharal says he wants to make an observation, that the time that Malchut Yishmael fits in historically is not throughout the 2,000 years of exile. We relatively got along with the Muslims well over the years, historically. We had individual incidents, I'm not saying there was nothing, but overall we got along pretty well with them. At the end of the Galut Edom, at the end of the Edom exile, suddenly the Ishmaelim are going to pop up in a big way and cause the whole world drama. So Maharal says if something like that happens, then it's not coincidental. There has to be a reason. Why them? Why at all? And why exactly at the end of Malchut Edom? Listen to what the Maharal says. Unbelievable thing. The Torah says that at one point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Abraham that he's going to have a son, Yitzchak. That should be his happiest moment of his life, right? He just got news that after all these years of waiting, him and his wife, Sarah, are going to have a son that's the way the Jewish nation is going to be built one day. If God would have came to me and told me that and I was in that situation, I would have said, thank you. Amazing. Abraham doesn't do that. What does the Torah say? He responds in what seems to be the most inappropriate possible way to God. He tells God, Lu Yishmael Yichyeh Lefanecha. Please, God, my son that I have from Hagar, Yishmael, please make sure that he also stays my son, that he also lives. That's the way he responded to having a son that's going to build the Jewish nation forever? That's the response? Lu Yishmael Yichyeh Lefanecha? It sounds funny, no? It's a little bit hard to understand, to put it mildly. And Avraham Avinu was the master of faith, so you can't say that he wasn't sure that he's going to have Yitzchak. If God told him, he was 100% sure he's having Yitzchak. So, what's Ishmael important now? So what did God answer? Obviously God wasn't upset by what he said. Because he answered him exactly on what he mentioned. Hashem answered him, Uli Yishmael, and about Yishmael, Shma'aticha, I heard what you had to say. And he doesn't say, and I'm going to listen to you. He tells him an interesting fact. Shneim asar nisiim yolid. He's going to have 12 rulers that are going to come out of him. 12 leaders of tribes are going to come out of Ishmael. Meaning, Abraham Avinu prays right after finding out that he's going to have Yitzchak. Lu Yishmael Yichyeh Lefanecha. I want Yishmael to live. God's response to that is not okay. It's, I heard you. And what's going to be is, he's going to have 12 different Nisim, leaders, tribes, whatever. Mashiach Kadosh, over 900 years ago, when he translates Shnei Masar Nisim, I wouldn't translate it at all. Everybody knows what that is. Rashi is a translator, right? Rashi's not a commentary that says this thing. He translates the psukim, the pshat of the pasuk. How does Rashi learn the pshat of the pasuk that Yishmael is going to have 12 Nisim? Comes Rashi HaKadosh and says, Sheyu kalim ke'ananim. They're going to disappear like clouds. That's not what the pasuk says. The pasuk says he's going to have 12 leaders. 12 Nasi'im. What do clouds have to do with anything now? And it doesn't say anywhere that they're going to disappear. He says he's going to have them. Meaning Rashi turns the pasuk exactly the opposite of what simply we would have understood the pasuk to be. In simplicity, we would have understood the pasuk to be an affirmation that Ishmael is going to live through these 12 tribes that he's going to have. Comes Rashi says, no, just the opposite. God told him, Shma'aticha, I heard you, but I didn't agree with you. They're going to vanish like clouds. That means they'll first exist and then vanish. You have to understand what that means. If Abraham Avinu's request was answered by God that he's going to allow Ishmael to live, so then why are they vanishing? And if it wasn't accepted by God, so why did they exist in the first place? You don't create something in order to destroy it. What's going on here? Seems like a wonder. This is not my question. Once again, this is the Maharal Mikbag's question. Comes the Maharal and says words that are a little bit mystical, Kabbalistic, if you want to call them that, and we're going to try and simplify them. The Maharal says that the 4 galuyot that we counted, that we explained last week at length, are exiles that come in the power of what he calls Kadishin Elyonin, holiness from above. He says, what does that mean? You have to understand, but maybe we'll try and explain a little more soon. But Yishmael, he doesn't come from the Kadishin Elyonim, from the Kedusha of above. He comes from the power of God himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'atzmo. What does this mean? It sounds like some sort of riddle. Besides, Bin Laden came from God himself. Come on. What? Why? What's going on here? What's the depth? So comes the Maharal and says, this Maharal is brought down in Ne'er Mitzvah on page 18 in the old print of Ne'er Mitzvah. V'yesh bnei adam shoalim. There are people that ask, Ve'echan ramaz malchut Yishmael, shehi malchut rabba v'takifa. Where does it say about the malchut Yishmael? It's such a strong empire. U'tshuvat she'ela zot, and the answer to this question, Ma shelo zachar malchut Yishmael, ki lo yichashev ha'katuv, because the pasuk only counts, meaning the Torah only counts. Rak HaMalchut shekiblu Malchut Kadishin Elyonim. Only kingdoms, rulerships that came from Kadishim Elyonim. She'alshu Malchut Yisrael vekocham. That, and here the Maharal explains what it means, Kadishim Elyonim, that they inherited the power of the Jewish kings prior to them. Meaning, when they burnt down the first temple and we went to exile, they took the kingdom from the Jews and they forcefully took over. And the same thing happened to the other exiles in one way or the other. Comes to Maharal and says, Vehem elu daled malchuyot, those are the four exiles. V'im lo shebatel malchut Yisrael, lo higia lahem malchut. If not for the fact that there was a decree that the kingdom of Israel had to be nullified temporarily, then the exile would have never happened. Because their only power is to be able to take away an existing power of the Jewish nation. Aval Malchut Yishmael, but the kingdom of Ishmael, comes to Maharal and says, Lo yarash kocho min Malchut Yisrael. It doesn't get its power by overtaking a Jewish king. Ki kocho v'tokfo, because his power, Natan lo Hashem yitbarach. Hashem himself gives Ishmael his power. Bifnei atzmo, alone, individualized. Bishvil, why? Shehaya mizera Abraham. That he was a child of Abraham Avinu. Wait, we're not done. V'Hashem yitbarach amar, and Hashem said himself, U'Yishmael shma'aticha. I heard you. And therefore God, through those words, gives the power to Ishmael. V'hinei natan Hashem yitbarach koach v'tokef li'Yishmael bifnei atzmo. And therefore God gave Ishmael power on his own. Umizeh ein medaber ka'asher maskir elu daled malchuyot. And on that, we're not discussing somebody who has the power directly from God when it talks about the four exiles. Now let's make an interesting observation. The common denominator between mass murderers in Malchut Edom was that in one way or the other, they were atheists or Darwinists. Hitler was a Darwinist. And if you look historically, the common denominator between radical Islamic terror in the world today is that they call themselves God believers. What do they do before they blow themselves up? They scream, Allah Akbar. They're doing it in the name of God. Opposite extreme. You ever paid attention to that? One mass murderer is the one who doesn't believe in God, and that's his justification of murder. That to him, life has no value because it's not a God-given gift. This is not only in war and terror, this is in the pro-life argument, by the way. I know it's not so nice to say it bluntly, but yes, to do an abortion is outright murder. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. There's no question about it. Those who are pro-life, the common denominator between all of them, are they are atheists on one level or the other. And they believe that we came from monkeys, and they care about dogs more than they care about humans. If you kill the dog, they'll put you in prison, but if you kill the baby, that's okay. The Muslims, as much as they'll send their kids as martyrs to die, they're anti-abortion. It's a crime in all Muslim countries. Because they have the belief that life came from God. Now they believe that it was used to blow up and kill people. For crazy things they use it. But they still believe that life came from God and therefore you can't take it away. The ones that they're taking away are the ones that they call the non-God sons in their weird way of thinking. It's an interesting observation. This was predicted in the Torah in advance. This is the way it's going to be. Now we understand why. If Yishmael got his own whole power from God, so of course any power that he has to do mass destruction in the world is going to be Allah Akbar. That's where his power comes from. Edom got their power that they stole and threw over, meaning they made a 180-degree flip on the Jewish kingdom. So the Jewish kingdom went in the name of God. They go exactly the opposite, against the name of God. Comes the Maharal in his book called Netzach Yisrael in the 21st chapter and adds on. ולקח אלו ד' מלכויות מפני שעמדו וקיבלו מלכות קדישים עליונים הם מעכבים הגאולה. Therefore these four exiles, because they took over Jewish kingdoms and got power from that, they're able to stop the days of redemption. Meaning not stop completely, slow down obviously. וכל זמן שהם הולכים, as long as they're in power, לא יחזרו ישראל אשר נטל השם יתברך המלכות מהם ונתנו לאלו ד' מלכויות אין חוזרים למקום מעלתם ולמלכותם. As long as these four, which right now we're in Edom, have power in the world, the Jews will not be able to have a king, otherwise known as Mashiach, won't be able to come. Because they take the power from us and we have to take it back from them. It's one or the other, they can't be both. Comes the Maharal and says, V'im malchut Yishmael malchut takifa, even though the kingdom of the Muslims is a very powerful kingdom, mikol makom einena bechlal daled malchuyot. It has nothing to do with the other four kings. Asher kiblu malchut kadishin elyonim, they got this power from a Jewish king. And therefore, their rulership in the world is not a contingency in any way to Mashiach being able to come. Meaning they can be powerful, Mashiach can still come, one has nothing to do with the other. What comes out? Listen to what the Maharal wrote over a couple hundred years ago. Literally a prediction of minute to minute what's going on in the world for the last 20 years for sure. 20. We're going to be in an exile. That exile is going to be ruled by Edom. We have no power to win Edom. The only power would be if we were 100% righteous. Tonight won't have the time, unfortunately, but maybe next week, if we can still continue on the same subject, we'd be able to explain that part of it. So God went and did us a favor. And he put in another sort of kingdom that's directly from him and that we can overpower directly. Malchut Yishmael. But now we have to understand. If the four kingdoms, the four exiles, got their power from the Kadishin Elyonim, those we can't win. But Ishmael that got the power directly from God, that we could win. If anything, it should be the opposite. The power from God sounds a lot bigger, holier, stronger. No, it doesn't sound like that. That's number one. The Maharal says that it would be easier to defeat Ishmael because of this. If anything, it should be harder to defeat Ishmael because of this. The other thing we have to understand is there were three exiles that the Jews were able to come back from. The fourth exile is the one that we're in, the longest one. Malchut Edom. We had Bavel, Paras, Madai, right? We were saved from all those. Yavan, Chanukah, Purim, the rebuilding of the second temple after the first temple. So we were able to beat this Kadishin Elyonim 3 times. Why suddenly with Edom it gets stuck for almost 2,000 years? We can't do anything about it. 3 times we did it successfully. You would think if somebody beats a battle 3 times, the 4th time, big deal. I already did it 3 times. All right, one more time, next. What is it? It's hard to understand. In order to understand this, we have to say a simple fact. The pasuk in Yeshaya in Perek Samech, pasuk Chabet, says, Ani Hashem be'ita achishena. Chazal, the Gemara learns out from that. What does it mean? Ani Hashem be'ita achishena. I, God, at its time, I'll make it come quicker. It's either quicker or at its time. Let's talk about redemption. So the Gemara learns, Zachu achishena. If the Jews have a merit, we'll make Mashiach come earlier than the time that it comes. Lo zachu, but if they don't have the merit, be'ita, it'll come on the time. Up to here, I think everybody heard somewhere or the other, right? This is a very famous Gemara. What do we see from here? That the 2 generalized paths of Mashiach coming. One is called at the end of times, meaning when the expiration date of the world, the way we know it, came up. And the other one is that we get lucky and we shorten our exile term and it comes quicker. What does that depend on? So in many places in the Navi, we discussed this. And for example, in Daniel Zayin Yud Gimel, the Navi says, V'ori mananei shmaya anash ata. And in Zechariah, it says the opposite extreme. Like on one, Mashiach's coming like with lights and clouds and I don't know, whatever, like the world's a beautiful place. In Zechariah, the Navi says in Perek Tet, very different things. Hinei malchecha yavo lach, your king, Mashiach's going to come to you. Tzaddik, righteous, v'nosha, and a savior, the one's going to save you from the situation. Hu ani, he's going to be a poor man, v'rochev ala chamor, riding on a donkey. You won't even be able to afford a Mercedes. Ride on a donkey. V'al'ir ben atonot. It's a pasuk in Zechariah. Comes the Gemara in Sanhedrin Tzadik Chet Amud Aleph and says, Amar Rav Alexandri says, in the name of Yeshua ben Levi, in the name of Yeshua ben Levi, there's a contradiction. On one hand, it says this glamorous way of Mashiach coming. On the other hand, it says, Ani rochev al chamor. Which one is it? It can't be both. You can't have a glamorous poor wedding. It doesn't work like that. You can have a glamorous wedding that makes you poor, but that you could have. But a glamorous poor, that you can't have. I think unfortunately most weddings fit that criteria today. So what's going on? So the Gemara says the answer. The answer is, if we have a merit, zachu, if the Jews have a merit, iman shmaya, it's going to come in this glamorous way. Lo zachu, if they don't have a merit, the Mashiach comes, be'ita, not achishena, ani yochev al chamo. Poor man riding on a donkey. If that's the case, everything's understood. If the Jewish nation is in a situation that they're righteous and they're worthy of getting redeemed, so at that point we have no need for Yishmael. And if we have no need for Yishmael, then there's no reason to count him as one of the exiles, because Yishmael is not an actual exile. And then Mashiach comes, Achishena, in the nicest way, in the best way, everything's beautiful. But if, the case is different, and the Jewish nation is not 100% the way Hashem wants it. If the majority of Jews in Florida, for example, vote Democrat, and spit in God's face, saying, we will go and vote to kill babies. As simple as that. That's what voting Democrat means. That's where it starts and ends. We will vote against Israel. If people that are ex-Israelis that live in the United States and are millionaires and billionaires spend fortunes of money supporting the BDS, instead of fighting in Hague against the BDS, that it should be illegal. That's lo zachu. The Jewish nation want Mashiach. You don't want Mashiach. You want to be not Jewish. That's what you want to be. You want to hide your Jewish identity. So then we got a problem. What's the problem? That Hashem says Mashiach has to come. Well, Mashiach has no path to coming because we can't take back the kingdom. So Hashem does something that's what we see now in history. He takes Ishmael. He makes them extremely powerful and wealthy. Like he puts an American president named Hussein, who decides to give $150 billion to the largest sponsor of terror in the world, Iran. That's Edom taking upon itself a ruler from Ishmael. Who would believe that in America there'd be a president named Hussein? We just had 8 years of him before. What was his whole campaign when he ran? Yes, we can. He stuck to it. Yes, we can destroy Israel. Yes, we can give money to terrorists. Yes, we can make the Muslims the most powerful in the world. Stuck to it. $1.5 billion in cash. Could you imagine how much space that takes? I don't know. I once tried to do the mathematics. How many cubic feet, $1.5 billion in cash that is. That's what he sent the Iranians. For a nuclear deal. You had to make a deal. God wants to blow up the world, some lunatic, swears and vows every Friday that he's going to do it, and now we're going to give him gifts. Insane. But Hashem said that that has to happen. Because we need the Bnei Yishmael to have power. Because then they're going to use that power to go spite the Bnei Edom that they benefited from. What did they just do in Iran 2 weeks ago? Had a funeral for some terrorist that thank God was blown up. And 6 or 7 million people, that's the estimate, were running on the streets chanting, "Death to America, death to Israel." Death to Israel, we understand. They always hated us. What do you want from America now? Because he killed them? No, they chanted death to America way before this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the Bnei Yishmael that are not from the 4 Galuyot to fight Edom's fight for us, because we can't fight that fight because we're not worthy spiritually of that. And that's why when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Abraham Avinu and told him, you're going to have a son Yitzchak in a Jewish nation, Abraham Avinu said, that's great, but what if the Jewish nation doesn't do what you want? Then we're going to be in trouble. So immediately he prayed, Lu Yishmael Yechia Lefanecha, God, we need an insurance policy. And that insurance policy is that my son Yishmael should live, so at the end of times, he should defeat Edom for the sake of Am Yisrael. And that's why Rashi writes, Sheyu kalim ka'ananim, that they should vanish like clouds. They should have no power. Meaning there'll be 12 big rulers, but they're not rulers for their own sake. Their only purpose is to fight our battle. I gave this class, believe it or not, to a group of Muslim students. Yes, word for word. And I told them, every time you post on Facebook something against the Jewish nation, every time one of your family members went and died to blow up a bus in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem or in one of our cities in Israel, every time you dumb idiots from Gaza send in a rocket to Israel, you think you're hurting us. You think you're fighting us. You don't realize you're fighting for us. You are a slave who's doing the dirty work for us. You're cleaning up our mess with Edom, so we should be able to have Mashiach. That's all you're doing. And for that we say kudos and thank you. It's a shame on the way we lose lives, and of course we want that to stop. But if we take away that factor of it, then that's what they're doing, according to the Maharal. And where do we know this from clearly? What's Edom's power? So Yitzchak goes and gives Yaakov the blessing instead of Esav. It was a great blessing. He gave him everything. Esav comes in, realizes he lost the blessing. Esav wanted the blessing. He was upset. He cried 2 tears. Chazal say 2.5 tears. If he would have cried a third, I don't know what a half a tear means, but that's what Chazal say. Then Barminan, the world wouldn't be able to continue. And then he asked, Habracha achat lecha avi. Dad, do you have any blessing for me? Did you give it all to him? And he told me, yeah, I gave everything to the Jews. Nothing left? Yeah, there's one thing left. That's what it says in Bereshit Chav Zayin. Yitzchak told Esav, V'aya kasher tarid uparakta ulo me'al tzavarecha. When Yaakov doesn't do his job and he doesn't act like Yaakov, so then you're going to have blessings. You'll be powerful. When there was no kiddush, we had Havdalah. That was the blessing that Esav got. And that's the power that he gets, Kadishin Elyonim. He's taking the power from the Jews. The Jewish king is not ruling like a Jewish king. Now comes the Edomi and is able to get the power to be a king. But when we can't defeat that spiritually, we send Esav and we tell him do the job. What did the Gemara say? That if lo zachu, if we don't have the merit, then how's Mashiach going to come? Ani verochev ala chamor. A poor person riding on a donkey. Any of you were in Israel in the past 6 months? I think you saw people riding trains, buses, and cars. The only people you saw riding donkeys we're Arabs. Mashiach's going to come, ani v'rochev al hachamo. They're going to be a primitive nation, who, as we proved last week, will give no benefit to society at any level, no contribution to society except for death and horror and terror. Absurd. And instead of the world spitting them out, they will accept them. Ani rochev al hachamo. The ultimate symbol of Edom in the world is Germany. Megillah Avav. Amud Aleph on the bottom, Amud Bet on the top, right? Yaakov Avinu prayed to God, Al titen Hashem me'avei resha zmamo al tafek. The Gemara says, Zu Germania shel Edom. The Avet says, Germania, he Ashkenaz shelanu, Germany. That means the peak of what in Chazal was considered Malchut Edom of the end of times, the Gemara predicted already almost 2,000 years ago, is going to be Germany. Which country had the most open arms for the wonderful Syrian refugees? Now they see how wonderful it is a year later. That destroyed their economy, their infrastructure, their social welfare, and everything else. Germany. Merkel went and took in 1.2 million of these people, and then said she's going to take in double that. Now she's already backing down because she realized that there's no country left. But, wait, what happened? Yaakov Avinu prayed to God, Al titen ma'Hashem me'avei resha. Don't let the last exile of Edom wipe out my children. Hashem said, don't worry. Lu Yishmael yicheh lefanecha. Your grandfather Abraham already found the solution for it. We're going to infiltrate Germany with Muslims, and that's going to bring Mashiach. Because the Ishmaelim are going to fight the Edomim. They're going to take battle one to another. And on this, by the way, we can go on and on and on. There's so many ways to prove this idea or this point. What does Iran come into play in all this, by the way? Specifically Iran, because that's like a hot subject. What's Iran? We spoke in general, Ishmael. What about specifics? The Maharal in Netzach Yisrael in the same in chapter 21 writes, you should know that Malchut Yishmael, what is Malchut Yishmael? He Malchut Paras. That's going to be the Iranian regime. Kefish Yevu'ar, like he'll explain, and he explains it in great length. If you think back historically, it's interesting. Iran wasn't always a Muslim country, definitely not a Muslim extreme country. Israel was actually in very good terms with Iran for a while. Very good terms. They had trade deals. That's how good they were. It's only in the past 40 years that things went crazy there. A couple of nutcases took power, and giving crazy people power is dangerous historically. The Maharal wrote in advance. You want to know who the Malchut Yishmael is going to be at the end of the days? The Iranians. This is an interesting thing now, what? We could say a brilliant pshat in the Gemara. I know it's late, whoever has to leave, you're welcome to do so. I don't get insulted, as you know. You can listen to the rest on YouTube tomorrow if you had to, So there's ways out of this. But I'm giving you a grand slam for the weekend. Grand slam for the weekend. There is a Gemara that we quoted in lectures countless times, so I'm not going to go through the whole Gemara. If you want to see it, it's right at the beginning of Avodah Zarah. First Amud on the bottom of Avodah Zarah. I'm just going to briefly make an observation in the Gemara. The Gemara says in the name of Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, and there's an argument, maybe it's Rabbi Simlai, La'atid lavo, in the days to come, Nevi HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sefer Torah. Thank you so much, that was very thoughtful. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring a Sefer Torah and put it in his arms, Manicha B'chiko, Ve'omer, and he's going to say, Mi she'asak ba yavo v'yitol schara. Whoever, asak doesn't mean learn. Lamad ba means learn. So that's a misquote that's commonly found, unfortunately. Mi she'asak ba, whoever was involved with it, Esek means a business, literally in Hebrew. Whoever this was part of his life should come and get his reward. You would think that who's going to go first? Shach, Chaim Kanievsky, Shibadel Chaim Tovim, Shleiman Zitzal, right? This is what I would think. The Gemara says that's not what's going to happen. Nichnesa Malchut Romi Tchila, Edom. They're going to come, Malchut Romi, and they're going to say, Yeah, we want reward. So God's going to tell them, what did you do for? You, Torah? I don't know anything about Torah. What you? So the Gemara says, they're going to say, Ribono shel olam, הרבה shvakim tikanu, we made many roads, merchatzaot, spas, הרבה kesef v'zahav, strong stock market, 401ks, skyrocketing, that's all Trump has to say. And I didn't mean that in a derogatory way. Trump is from Chasidei Umot HaOlam, at least as of now. Let's hope he doesn't turn on us, but for now. V'chulam lo asinu ela b'shvil Yisrael. And the only reason why we did all of this was for the Jews. By the way, for example, the Verrazano Bridge, I agree. They did that to take $19 from me every time I drive it. I drive very frequently. But they come to God and they say, we did everything for the Jews. Come on, this is a joke. Why? Listen to this. Kedei shi'asku b'Torah. In order for them to sit and learn. We were the biggest supporters of college students. That's what they're going to say. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, shotim sheba'olam, fools, kol ma she'asitem letzorach atzmechem asita. Everything you did for yourself. The Gemara says, miyad yatzu b'pachei nefesh, they leave disappointed. Yatza malchut Romi, Edom gives up. What happens instead? Nichnas malchut paras achareya. The Iranian regime comes in. I'm quoting you a Gemara. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem tells, what's that lunatic's name over there? Whatever, I don't remember how to pronounce his name. Maybe it's better that way. Rouhani, something like that he calls himself. I don't know what. Khomeini, I don't know. Whatever his name is, drop dead soon. Amen. Sonei Yisrael, right? We pray that. There's nothing wrong with saying it. It's like we're scared to even say what we say in our prayers in Amidah every day. That's politically incorrect, and we say it 3 times a day in our prayer. It's okay. That's what we say. Yeah, Sonei Yisrael, drop dead quickly. We don't need you. Anyway, Amar lehem, Hashem says, you guys? You're the troublemakers. What'd you do? What's your story? So they say, Ribono shel olam, הרבה גשרים גשרנו. We made a lot of, literally means bridges, but if you look in the explanations, we made a lot of connections. הרבה כרכים כבשנו. We conquered a lot of territory. הרבה מלחמות עשינו. We caused a lot of wars. Is this exactly the Iranian regime today? Sponsoring terror in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. הרבה milchamot. הרבה krachim. Did they conquer city after city in their battles in Syria? Unreal. Like literally what's going on. V'chulam lo asinu. And all these wars that we did, the only reason why we did that was b'shvil Yisrael, for the Jews. Kedei shi'asku b'Torah, and they should study Torah. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, everything you did, l'tzorech atzmechem asitim, you did it only for yourself, not for the Jews, and he threw them out. Then the Gemara asks over there, why is the Edomim considered more important than the Iranian regime? Because these are going to have power until Mashiach comes, the others won't, whatever. They might have some interesting conclusions there. There's much more to this Gemara. Obviously, I selectively picked the part that I want to conclude with. Now in this Gemara, there's very obvious questions. The Edomim came and told God, we built bathhouses and roads and this and spas and that. We did it all for the Jews to learn Torah. The last I remember, Rabbi Akiva Eiger didn't spend his life traveling on vacation and in spas and on the beach. He spent it in the Beit Midrash. So, what type of stupid things to say is that? I built that for... Imagine Chamovadia got up and spoke about the importance of not going places that you shouldn't go to, and some guy at the end of the lecture says, Rabbi, give me a Misha Berach. Why? I built a big nightclub in Tel Aviv. What? The rabbi just spoke exactly against that. The Edomim come to God and say, we built a whole bunch of entertainment industries for the Jews to be able to learn Torah. It's weird. And God doesn't tell him that they're liars. God should have answered, Shakranim, you're liars. He says, Shotim, you're fools. Number two, you have to understand, they're talking to God directly. Nobody lies to God. So that means they really believed what they said. So how could they believe such a thing? They know what they did and why they did it. And the third, which is the biggest question of all, is Mele, the Edomim, we could still say, did nice things. Money, this, that, positive things in the world. But the Parsiim, when the Iranian regime came in, they didn't even claim to do anything positive. They said we made wars, we caused chaos in the world, we conquered territory that wasn't ours. That's what they're coming to get reward for? That's totally off the... What's going on? And this is a Gemara that many spoke about. Most of the Mefarshim left this whole Gemara as a Tzarich Iyun. Biskrov and Beit HaLevi, they have a mutual explanation that we said in a different class. But based on what we're saying tonight, the Maharal explains this very, very simply. He says the Edomim don't come to God and say we built things deliberately for the Jews to benefit from it. That was never the claim, that's a lie. And that's why God doesn't call them liars, they don't lie. They said it's true that everything we did for ourselves. But at the end of the day, the Jews benefited. Look who were the sharks on Wall Street, Jewish guys. Look where the money came for yeshivot, from Jewish businessmen in the US. The Israeli government just cut the budget of the yeshivot in Israel by another 400 million shekel. On one hand, it's a tragedy. On the other hand, it's the happiest day for us American Jews. Because my father heard from Rabbi Shechter, that heard from the Chazon Ish, that the Chazon Ish told him these words, that every time Israel takes away money from yeshivot, Hashem immediately makes the Orthodox American Jews a lot wealthier, so they should be able to give more tzedakah to compensate for what's missing. So when last week they said they want to take away 400 million shekel, and Lieberman with his ugly face put his stupid video on the TV saying the religious are taking all the money away, I was laughing. My kids were like, "Are you laughing? It's not a funny matter, it's a reason to cry." I said, we're going to be so rich this week. The money's just going to pour. You don't understand. That's what the Chazon Ish says. And the truth is, historically, I have a whole class, a long, complicated class to prove this economically. Every time the Israeli government cut budgets on the Jews, the economy in America, specifically for the Jewish businesses, was booming. Booming. It's an unbelievable thing. It's a phenomenon. But because the Torah carries itself. Now the question is, who has the merit to give it? So sometimes the Israeli government has the merit, and other times we get lucky and we have the merit to do it. No. But the Romans came, Malchut Edom came with an interesting claim, which is a claim that God, in theory, agreed to. They said, it's true that we didn't do it deliberately for the Jews, but indirectly, everything we did, the Jews benefited from. I want to say it even more. We're number one at everything we did. We're number one in the market, we're number one in invention, we're number one in the medical fields, we're in real estate, every area. Look at the Forbes 400 list of this year. See what percentage statistically are Jews. It's insane. It's unreal. When those Occupy Wall Street fools were busy prancing around, honestly, I had one thing to tell them. You're right. Yes, we do control everything, it's true. But guess what? It's a free enterprise and you could have too. That you chose to get a degree in liberal arts and do nothing with your life is not my fault. But factually, they were 100% right. We control everything. Yes, we control politics, we control every area. We're the biggest and best in every area. But who is this channeled through? Malchut Edom. The Western culture. Capitalism. At the end of the day, when we go and donate money to Kollel students who are able to study Torah, it's as a result of non-Jewish universities teaching us, non-Jewish industries that we went into and prospered in, and that's the Goyim's claim. We were a pipeline that allowed things to happen. So God doesn't tell him you're wrong. He says you're right. He said, but that you did what you did for yourself, and that the Jews benefited, I did. Had nothing to do with you. If you would have done something proactively to benefit the Jewish nation, then I would give you credit for everything. But being that you never did anything proactively to benefit the Jews, just as an indirect result, so the indirect result that they were successful in industries that you created was my work, wasn't your work. You get no reward for that. The Rambam writes that, by the way, in Zayim and Mishnayot, clearly, in the Agdama. He says that if you walk down the street and you see a gorgeous mansion built, you should know the only reason why Hashem allowed the thing to be built in the first place was because one day there'll be a wise Torah sage that'll walk by and need some shade, and he'll get some shade from that building. Literally. Okay, but at least the Edomim we understood a little bit. What happens with the Iranians? So we went and made wars. Based on what we explained tonight, the answer is very simple. The Ishmaelim come to God and said, Borei Olam, Lu Yishmael Yicheh Lefanecha. We went and made battles. Who did we fight with? The Americans, the Europeans, the Westerners, the Christians, all the Edomim all over the world we fought with. You know why we did that? Bishvil Yisrael, for the Jewish nation. That one day they should be able to study Torah peacefully by us conquering Edom and then Mashiach coming. God threw them out and said, that's one big lie. And the proof is that you weren't willing to concede to the end game. And today this takes a whole new meaning. When Trump announced today that he's going to present his whatever peace plan that he has, and in big parts of it he deliberately leaked, and the two first conditions in it all is that the Palestinians recognize the Jewish state, and they recognize that the capital of the Jewish state is Jerusalem. Right away, Abbas, another one that has to go together with the Iranian, made this big announcement of they're not going to accept it, and it's against international law, and suddenly he's the law expert, this idiot. When his kids blow up all day, he's not a law expert on international law. When they shoot soldiers in the air, he's not an expert in the Hague Convention. When everything else, he's not there. But suddenly he's a law expert. He woke up, he's a law expert. We've avoided the legal system. But okay, it's not that far off. That's pretty much all our law experts today. But what lies here? What lies here is Hashem's answer to the Ishmaelim after for Mashiach to come. He says, it's true that you fought the fight that brought the Jews to Mashiach's days, but my end game plan of that's the reason of the fight, and your end game plan of what you try to accomplish were completely different. You wanted to put terror in the world, because terror was your objective. Allah Akbar, we're going to die in the name of God, we don't care, we want to kill everybody who's not like us. Your objective wasn't to benefit the Jews. And the proof is, you weren't willing to recognize the Jewish nation as an existent nation at all. Forget about as the one who you were there for, to service. And therefore Hashem throws them out. And on that, we see in the Yalkut Shimoni in Yeshaya, Perek Samech, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Shana Shemelech HaMashiach Niglebo, the year that Mashiach is going to reveal himself, Kol Malchei Ha'olam Mitgarim Zeh Bazeh. All the strong rulers, Malchei Ha'olam is not every clown. It's the strong rulers of the world, they're going to have fights with each other. Who are the strong rulers? Melech Paras, the Ayatollah of Iran, Mitgareh b'Melech Aravi. והולך מלך ערבי לארם ליטול עצה מהם. Aravi is Ma'arab. The powerful nations that the Midrash chose to use is Iran, is the most powerful Western country, which right now is the US. And these two leaders are going to decide to fight with each other. They're going to start up with an embassy, Trump's going to blow up a terrorist, the Democrats are going to have a sad day. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. V'chozer Melech Paras. What's Melech Paras, the Iranian Ayatollah's answer to this fight going to be? Machriv kol ha'olam. I'm going to destroy the whole world. What did he announce after they killed his terrorist over there? Now I have no commitments to not having nuclear warhead immediately. Otherwise known as, I'm going to have the power to wipe out the entire world. Exactly word for word what the Yalkut taught us. וכל אומות העולם מתרעשים ומתבהלים ונופלים על פניהם, and the nations of the world get scared. And what do? Instead of fighting back, ונופלים על פניהם, and they bow down. If any of you wasted your time seeing the Democratic debate on the 13th of January, what do you see those 6 fools say? What's the way to deal with terror? Not to send troops, God forbid. Not to send planes to bomb them like we should. We got to speak to them. The only thing they forgot to say, maybe we should send them chocolates and flowers for Valentine's Day. Maybe that's going to solve the problem. I can tell you as one who unfortunately had many friends that died in front of his eyes in the IDF. When somebody comes with a strapped bomb around them, chocolates and flowers don't work. The only hope is to neutralize them before it's too late. Kill them before they get you. That's the only way. There is no other language they understand. And then, and it's going to be like as if a lady right before she gives birth. And the Jews are going to be scared. Where are we going to go? It used to be, you have a problem in one place, you go to the next place. But now, in America, we have anti-Semitism. In Israel, we have Muslim terror. And here, wherever you go, it's the same thing, wherever you go. There's no safer place. We're in the same situation everywhere. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say, Banai al titrao. And this is really my message. I built the whole speech up for this sentence. My dear children, don't be scared. Lately, there's been a lot of people that have beards, many of them white beards. Unfortunately, I guess they couldn't afford a shaver. That have given speeches that are kfirah, saying it's dangerous to live in America, you have to live in Israel. Gedolei Yisrael said that? No. Chaim Kanievsky told individuals over time that they should stay in Israel because of halakha reasons. If it was so dangerous to live in other places, then before World War II, there were many Gedolei Olam that could have told everybody to leave. Meaning Hashem decides what happens where. And the interesting thing is the common denominator between all of those is they live in America. Practice what you preach. If you're telling everybody you got to move to Israel, why aren't you the one who sets the example first? Get out of here. Because in America you could defraud people by playing this stupid game with a white beard, and in Israel you won't get away with that. Simple as that. That's the only explanation. There is no other. This is a very dangerous thing. Omer lahem banai al titrau. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, my children, don't be scared. Kol ma she'asiti, all the chaos in the world that we see today, lo asiti ela bishvilchem. I'm only doing this for you. This is for your benefit. Higia zman geulatchem. Now came the time for your redemption. And I end with what I had merited to hear many, many years ago from Maran Rav Shach Zitzal. Maran Rav Shach said an amazing chidush. He said, the Gemara says there's 2 ways Mashiach could come, either be'ita or achishena. And technically we're in the middle of the be'ita process, which is the not pleasant one. Rav Shach said an unbelievable chidush. Hashem doesn't say, Ani Hashem, o be'ita, o achishena. I, God, am going to do it either this way or that way. The Gemara says, zachu or lo zachu. But the pasuk says, be'ita achishena in one sentence. Why? Because Rav Shach says, even if there's a situation that it seems like it's be'ita, you could still make achishena. A few more Jews doing a few more mitzvot, it reduces the level of chaos and conflict and other things in the world, and Mashiach can come not like an aniyah al chamo. So that means even if we don't get to perfection, just the fact that there's so many people today that study Torah, that do chesed, and that Am Yisrael is so amazing in such an amazing way. There's probably more Torah now in the Jewish nation than there definitely is since the Beit HaMikdash times. Don't fool yourselves. In Europe before the war, there was no yeshivot with 10,000 people. There was no mere yeshiva like today. There wasn't even a fraction of percentage-wise. The amount of Torah, the amount of kids that went to school is, well, now it's yeshiva break. But I never understood how that name made sense. Yeshiva break. Yeshiva means to sit, that means there's no break. If you're in yeshiva, you don't have a break. I don't know. Let's call it teacher's break. Teachers needed vacation, so they dumped the kids on the mothers to babysit. That's really what it is at the end of the day. But on a regular day, the amount of kids that go to school and learn Aleph Bet and learn Torah Hashem Tmima and learn Bereshit Bara Elokim, since the Beit HaMikdash, I don't think there was ever a period in Jewish history that there were such numbers. It's unreal. Close to 200,000 in Israel that are over bar mitzvah age, besides for the kids that there's no way to count by now. And in Brooklyn and in Muncie and in Lakewood and in Chicago and in Los Angeles and in every Jewish town around the world, wherever, it's unreal. Hundreds and hundreds, schools packed, buildings coming up one after another, shuls on Shabbat, there's nowhere to sit. Place after, and they open more and it's full and they open more. Unreal. That's what Rav Shach said. There'll be such a situation that even though on one hand a lot of the Jews are going to do things that are very crazy, but Hashem doesn't want it to be a sad thing that Mashiach comes through suffering. So He's going to make that there should be an achishena even in the Be'ita. That there should be enough good to expedite even in the end of days a second before. So it doesn't have to come ani harochev al hachamo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help. We should see Malchut Mashiach, Chamda Mishmaya, B'simcha u'benachat.